Hello, I'm Doug Watches. Welcome to the Locksmith DVD training program. This video will deal with tips on how to start and run a mobile locksmith business. This is a rather long video, and I would suggest taking a break once in a while as you go through it. I would also suggest taking notes and probably viewing the video several times. There is a great deal of information presented, as I have tried to explain enough that someone who has never started or ran a business will at least have some idea of the basic steps to go through to get started. I am simply sharing my ideas of how, generally speaking, I would go about getting started and running a mobile locksmith business. If you ever have specific legal questions about your business, you should consult an attorney. This video will be divided into 20 parts. We will start out discussing some of the general steps that need to be considered when starting any business. Later in the video, we will get into the actual operations, and finally, we'll get into the financial nuts and bolts of making the business a success. All of the information in the video is relevant, but I would encourage you to pay particular attention to sections 9, 13, and 15. A good understanding of these three sections is critical and will greatly increase your chances of success. This video is divided into two sections and will come on 2 DVDs. The first DVD will contain parts 1 through 12, and the second DVD will contain parts 13 through 20. The video is divided into 20 parts. Part 1 is area of operation. Part 2, business name. Part 3, licenses. Part 4, insurance. Part 5 is advertising. 6 is the vehicle that you're going to use. 7 deals with tools. 8 is inventory. 9 is operational procedures. 10 is prices. 11 is credit. And 12 is bookkeeping. 13, build a business model. 14, dealing with tax forms. 15, when to add services. 16 is work your base. Part 17, continued training. 18 is time for yourself. 19 is retirement. And 20 is summary and conclusion. As you get ready to set up your locksmith business, you need to look at the area you'll be operating in. It will be necessary to get a business license for that area, so you'll need to check with both local and state governments to see what licenses are required. As far as the size of the area, it's very important that there be enough people to generate enough business for you to be successful. If you are in a rural area, you probably have to cover a larger area as opposed to someone operating in an urban area. If your area has a very small population, you may find it necessary to expand your business to other lines of work. I know of several locksmiths who also service garage doors. That seems to be an area that is very compatible with locksmithing. If you're in an area that has a fairly large population, you should be able to generate enough profit from locksmithing in order to stay in business. Okay, this is a map provided by the U.S. Census Bureau. As you can see, it's for 2000. The smallest blue dots are from 10,000 to 250,000 people. But if you're close to any of the dots, obviously there's probably enough people for a few locksmiths. Now, if there's 300,000 or 400,000 or 1 million people, they'll support a lot of locksmiths. Now, if you're out in some of this rural area in the central part of the country, it may be that you're going to have to commute into a larger town to be able to be successful with your work. Where I live at, people commute up to 70 miles and 80 miles a day, some even further than that, for all kinds of jobs. You could do the same for a locksmith business. You'd be just commuting into a larger town to work. Okay, so I'm on the Census Bureau website here still, and they have the quick facts here that if you don't know how many people are in your area or in your town, you can just click on the state, and then you can find the city that you're in. I'm going to click on California. I live in Turlock, California. And so I'm going to come over here and click on that. Then you click go up here, and shows 68,549 people that in this town. Now that number is right here. That's not a whole lot of people. You know, it's a fair-sized town. It would support a few locksmiths, but the surrounding area is much larger. And so there's another way to look at the population, and that's in the what's called a metropolitan statistical area. So those are also available on the census website. Now this is actually on the Wikipedia website. They have a little better table, I thought, for these metropolitan statistical areas, which is what we're really interested in, is groups of people that are living in the same area. And if I bring this down, you can see that, kind of zoom in here a little bit, that the #1 metro area, of course, is the New York area, right at 19 million people for 2010. Los Angeles, Long Beach, Santa Ana, so on, second at about 13 million. And again, now, as I mentioned earlier, I live in the city of Turlock, and they showed a population of 68,000. But if I come down the list here, I'm in this area right here, Modesto, California, MSA area. And here we can see that there are 519,000 people. And that's basically the population that I serve, would be more like that number there. And there probably are 40 to 45 locksmiths in that area. There could even be as many as 50 locksmiths in this area. But that gives you some idea that, you know, as you watch my videos and I talk about how to establish your business and so on, this is the kind of area that I live in and I work with, just over 500,000 people. Now, if you have, you know, a lot less people, it's going to cause some problems depending on how many locksmiths there are. If we go on down the list here let's go down to the very bottom of the list. We can see that, at number 366, Carson City, 55,000 people. But now I know for a fact that Carson City is not that far from Reno, Nevada. And so there's a lot more people not too far away that a locksmith that might live here could have access to. And so you might find the same, you know, if you live in a small town, hopefully there's a large town not more than 30 or 40 miles away that you're going to be able to serve with your locksmith skills. Okay, this is a map of the area that I normally work. This is my central location where the dot is. You can see that coming through here we have a freeway that runs all the way through the area that I work and allows me to move quickly up and down through this area from job to job. If I have to get too far off the freeway, of course it does slow me down, takes a little bit more time to travel to the outer corners of the area. But as far north as I go is about 26 miles up the freeway, and then as far south as I go is about 17 miles. So it's about a 43-mile zone from one end to the other end. And it more or less makes a kind of a triangle here at the top, and then up this way, I do quite a bit of business up this way. I have a major highway up to that. It's not a 4-lane road, but it's a pretty good road to get up to this corner of my area. And then there's an outer line community here and here with pretty good roadways that allow me to get there fairly quickly. So that's what my area looks like. And like I say, the main thing that makes this area workable is this freeway that I can travel from this location to any corner of it within 30 minutes. Okay, now within my area, these are the major concentrations of population. Now again, this is my central location where the dot is. This area here, the little block where it says 60% of my work comes from that area. Right below it is a block that provides about 15% of my work, and then about 15% of my work in this area here, close to where I live. So that's about 90% of my work. The rest of the work is in these outer lying areas. But I try to always stay close to the main area that provides most of my work, so that if another job is going to come up during the day, more than likely that job will come from this area. So I don't want to be too far out at any one time to where I can't get back and pick up that other job and take care of it. And that's one reason I don't go any further out than what you see on the map. Once you've picked out your area of operation, you'll need to think about the name of your business. Go to the Yellow Pages and possibly the internet and look at the other names of the locksmiths operating in your area. When selecting a name for your business, I think it's important to have a name that will appear close to the top of the list in the Yellow Pages. Since they are normally listed in alphabetical order, you want to keep that in mind when choosing your name. You also want to make sure that you do not infringe on someone else's name. If you choose a business name that does not include your own name, you will probably have to apply for a fictitious name permit. For example, if your name is Jones and you name your business Jones Locksmithing, then you probably will not need a fictitious name permit. But if you choose a name like Expert Locksmithing, you'll probably have to file a fictitious name permit. This usually requires filling out a permit and advertising the name in the newspaper for several weeks. Check with the records office in your area to see what the requirements are. The next thing I want to point out is where the listing starts, locks and locksmiths, this category begins, is to which names appear first. And of course, they're all going to have an A. They're normally listed in alphabetical order, and that's how they go in there. So you can see that in this book here, that my ad appears first. This is my company here, Affordable Joe. That's my business name. Once you have selected your name and dealt with the fictitious name permit, you should be able to obtain a business license. Different states and cities have different requirements to obtain a license for operating a locksmith business. Don't wait until the last minute to find out what they are. Go right away and talk to the city licensing department so that you will be aware of and can meet the requirements. In some states, it's necessary to register with the State Department of Consumer Affairs and obtain a license from them. Normally, the people that issue your city business license will know if that is required. It would be a good idea to go to your state government's website and see if you can find any state requirements for locksmiths. You will also probably need to obtain a sales tax ID number. Again, you could check the website of your state government and probably get the information as to where to go or who to talk to concerning the sales tax and the sales tax ID number. In most states, you're required to display your license in your van. This is always a good idea, as customers like to know that you are licensed. This is from the ALOA website, and it shows the states that currently require licensing down here. Now, when they say licensing, they mean a special locksmith license. If you go into business, you're going to be required to have a business license and probably have a tax ID, sales tax license. But in addition to that, in these states, there's also some special requirement for locksmiths to be licensed. You can see there's only a few that require a special license. But don't go by just this list. I mean, some state could have passed a law in the last few months that they're not on the list. So go to your, again, your licensing office in your city, check with them, check with the state government's website dealing with licenses and consumer affairs. It might not be a bad idea to contact the police department in your area to see if they are aware of any special requirements for locksmiths also. Okay, now the same with sales tax. You can use the internet to locate the information that you need. This is for Texas. You can see it says Texas taxes right here, sales and use tax. And here on the left side, we have sales tax permit application right there. And I'm sure if we click on that, it's going to probably take us to the permit, give us information about it. You have to read through all of this, and then down below there's a spot where we can click and begin the process and so on. And nearly every state now has the service online where you can get the information and get started with getting all of the permits and so on that you need. So that's, again, look at your state, whatever state you're in, go to their state government site and research sales tax and see if you're going to be required to have a sales tax or not. There are a couple of different options on sales tax. You can pay, and again, now this varies from state to state. You need to check with your state. If you pay tax on all of the materials that you buy, and you don't increase the price of the material and sell it to somebody else, you simply use it in your work. That is, you're not making a separate sale of the merchandise, you're simply using the materials in your work. You may not be required to have a sales tax number. So, check and see. From what I have learned, most states want service people to have the sales tax numbers and collect and pay the sales tax to the state. I would strongly recommend that before making the first call, you obtain business liability insurance for your business. I have discovered a wide range of prices for basic liability insurance. It pays to call around and get as many quotes as possible before selecting your insurance company. Many insurance companies will make their products affordable by offering monthly payments. So if you're short of money, be sure to ask about the payment option. Okay, this is an example of an insurance policy. You can see that this is a business policy. That here, building, there's no coverage because it's a mobile service. Business property, I don't carry insurance for business property, but you can get that if you would want to. Personal property of others, you could get that, replacement costs, and so on. This probably is the most important item on here is the liability insurance. And typically the policies don't write for less than $1 million. But there's medical expenses, personal and advertising injury, damage to premises rented to you, and then the total amount they would pay out, $2 million, the aggregate limit on a claim. So you can see it's a very simple policy that you're just better off having some type of insurance. Doesn't really cost that much. Once you have selected the area of operation and acquired the appropriate licenses, you'll be able to begin the operation of your business. It is absolutely essential that you have a listing in the Yellow Pages. Yellow Page ads are taken several months before the phone book comes out. I would give this considerable thought and make sure that I had a Yellow Page ad in the phone book at about the same time I planned to start my business. Again, this will take some planning, and I would contact the Yellow Page advertising department of your phone book to find out when the ads have to be placed and when the phone book will actually come out. As far as the size of the ad, I do not recommend a very large ad. I would probably get a 1-inch ad to start my business. After the first year, you'll have had some experience with how the ad worked. You may decide that you need a larger ad or that you can get by with a smaller one. I would urge extreme caution if considering a very large ad to start with. You may find that you are working simply to pay for the Yellow Page ad. We're going to take a look at the Yellow Pages now to see what we can learn about business names and Yellow Page ads. This book is the Valley Yellow Pages. It's one of the bigger books that's in my area. Okay, there's 31 locksmiths that are listed in this phone book. And the first thing that I want you to notice is how many large ads there are. On this page, which is the only page with any large ads in this book, there's 2 large ads and 1 medium-sized ad. Out of 31 listings, only 3 that are taking these kinds of ads. Now, these companies could have been in business for a long time. They could be storefront businesses with several vans that are out working. And normally to support an ad of this size, you do need more than 1 van out. Now, not always if you get your business built up enough, but the fact that there's only so few larger ads tells us that most locksmiths do not think it's advantageous to spend this much money on the larger ads. So you can see that this very first ad, Affordable Joe, that just so happens to be my ad. That's my business name, Affordable Joe. And it's the first listing in this category in this Yellow Page phone book. My ad says low rates, reliable service, commercial, residential, automotive, full service locksmith, serving Modesto Turlock area, and then the phone number I'd like to have very large, and then my website is listed. It is also important today that your customers can find you on the internet. As part of your phone book advertising program, you could normally have your ad also appear in the Yellow Page listings on the internet. They usually charge a few dollars more for this service. You'll also want this to show up on smartphones. More and more, when people are locked out of their cars, they go straight to their smartphones to look for a locksmith. In regard to advertising, there are 2 more items that need to be dealt with as you begin your business. The first one is business cards. You'll need to get business cards printed and give those out to your customers and your potential customers. Many websites exist for helping you design a logo and printing business cards at a reasonable price. You can also check with your local office supply store. The second item that needs to be dealt with is advertising on your vehicle. Whatever vehicle you intend to use should have your name and phone number on it. It should also say that you are in the locksmithing business. Today, you can purchase decals which can be attached to almost any vehicle. If you cannot afford decals, you can get magnetic signs which will be attached and will at least temporarily serve the same purpose. Also, it is my understanding that in some states, the license number is required to appear on the vehicle. So again, you'll need to check with the state requirements for operating a locksmith business to know if you need your number to appear on the vehicle. You can see the decals here on my van. As you can see, they're pretty large. And that's one thing I requested when they designed these, is I wanted them very large and I wanted the phone number to be very large. Here you can see the decal on the back, also has the phone number on the back. But you know, it points out very clearly that I do 2 types of work. I do appliance repair and I do locksmith work. And has my name there. My business name is Affordable Joe. So that's one side of the van, and here's the back of the van. So whoever is sitting behind me at a stoplight is going to know what type of work that I do, and if they want to call me, they can see my phone number right there. Also has a ALOA sticker, member of the Associated Locksmiths of America, is right there. locksmiths you can trust. Okay, you can see the other side of the van here, and you can see I have windows in the doors here. I prefer a van with some windows in the back to let more light in. I just find that a better working environment for me. But again, I have a decal on this side, and they made it as large as they could to fit in that space right there, and again with a very large phone number. Now the first three things I've talked about as far as advertising are very important. You need to be in the yellow pages, you need business cards, and you need your vehicle identified with your business name, what you do, and your phone number. But that's only the start of getting customers. There's a lot more that can be done, and most of it can be done very inexpensively to get you new customers. On a slow day is a great time to think about what can you do to get more customers. The internet is becoming more and more popular, and is a tool that can be used to make more contacts. In time you'll need to get your own website, and you can also use Facebook and other social sites as a means of contact. Put an ad on Craigslist in your area. Advertise that you do automotive and home and business lockouts, that you're available to rekey homes and offices. You may pick up 1 or 2 jobs a month. You can get out and visit all of the real estate offices. Make sure that every realtor in your area has your business card. If it's a large office, see about putting a flyer in each mailbox of the realtors. Visit the hotels and apartment complexes in your area. Make sure they have a card. Ask them to put the card on the bulletin board. You might even contact local banks to meet with the person in charge of acquiring and securing foreclosed homes. All of those have great potential for job prospects. If you belong to a church, make sure that they know that you are now in the locksmith business. See if the church has a newsletter that goes out to members. If so, ask them if you can put a small ad in it, or at least mention your name and business. Also, consider joining the Chamber of Commerce in your area. The Chamber of Commerce is a great place to contact all of the businesses in the area and let them know about your service. Okay, let's talk about your vehicle. I'm often asked the question, what kind of vehicle do I need to get started as a locksmith? Well, I've seen people use all kinds of vehicles, from small cars to large trucks. Whatever you have will probably work to get you started. One consideration is your work area. You can work on the tailgate of a pickup, or you could have a small table that you can set up. It doesn't take too much space to rekey locks, which is basically what you'll be doing. A second consideration is a key machine. I know people who have set up key machines in the trunks of their cars. Others have set up key machines in the back of their pickups under a camper shell. It's important that you have electricity for your key machine. Key machines can operate on either 12 volts or 120 volts. If you get a machine that operates on 120 volts, it's necessary to have an inverter. Those are a couple of things to think about. Having said that, what is ideal is to have a cargo van with a workspace and shelving built into it. In my videos, I take you inside my van and you're able to see how to set it up. I always try to keep my vehicle expenses as low as possible. Consequently, I do not recommend buying a new van. I look for vans that are a couple of years old with 40 to 70,000 miles on them. You do not want to get too old of a van because it needs to be reliable. But anything that is running will at least temporarily work. One very important consideration in selecting a vehicle is the gas mileage. Gas is a major expense. I recommend either a V6 or a small V8 engine. Okay, once you have a vehicle, it's important to keep it maintained and running well. When your vehicle stops, your business stops. So you need to build into your budget at least $72 a month or $864 per year for maintenance. You'll need to get the vehicle serviced every 4,000 miles or so, and you'll need brakes and tires every 2 to 3 years. In addition to that, you'll need money for a breakdown. I assume that I will have a costly breakdown every 3 years of $1,000 or so. If the vehicle does not break down, I can use that money when it's time to buy another vehicle. At the time of this video, I am calculating my vehicle cost to be $17 a month for oil changes, $25 a month for brakes and tires, and $30 a month for a breakdown. I will talk more about insurance and payments later in the video. Most vans today are good for 250,000 miles if properly maintained. If you drive 1,400 miles a month, the vehicle is good for 178.6 months, or nearly 15 years. If you buy a vehicle with 70,000 miles on it, and it is in good condition, you could still expect to get 180,000 more miles, which is over 10 years. Depending on your area, you may drive more or less than 1,400 miles per month. You need to get an auto expense ledger and keep it in your vehicle. Keep track of your miles and your maintenance. Record your miles at the start of the year and every time you buy gas. Okay, we're going to go inside the van. In the front of the van, you can see first off, I have a navigator right there. There's also a backup camera mounted on the dash right there. And here in the middle, I have a library that I keep right here with for making automotive keys. These first 2 books deal with automotive keys, and then these next 2 books down here deal with lockouts, so that if I get a call, I can just pull over to the side of the road, grab that book, and look and see what I'm dealing with, if it's to make a car key or to deal with a lockout. Then I have a place here for my my clipboard and stuff here in the middle, and we'll talk more about that later in the video. Okay, we're going to look in the side door now and show you the setup right here. Okay, first off, you can see there's a couple of ladders that are strapped to the wall right there, and then there's a tool tote right here where I can grab it real quick. You can see I have a storage cabinet and toolboxes, and you can see my workbench up here. Work lights on, key machines. I've got the HPC SpeedX duplicator, and then the 1200 back there. The bins here are for small items. All the bins are numbered. Okay, so now we're going to just go to the back of the van, take a peek in the back. Then I have a big tool bag right here with quite a few tools in it, and below it I have a set of sockets that I can take out and take the whole set of sockets to the job site with me. Now I carry a vacuum cleaner. You can see down here is the battery that operates the key machines. The cable's coming out. The inverter is up underneath there, and the switch for the inverter is right there, right over the key machine. You can see it's on, and right now it's running this light that's up over the workbench is being powered right now, but the key machines would come on now because the inverter is turned on. So you can see that that's the 1200 Blitz machine, and of course now when I get ready to leave the van, I'll turn that inverter off, or it'll run this battery down here, and it won't run the truck battery down, but it'll run down the battery that feeds the equipment. And then again, I have again this little hole down there. There's extension cords and stuff stuck in there. Sometimes you need to run your power cords out quite a ways to run a drill to drill a lock. Okay, inside on this side we have some shelves, and again, a lot of that there is for appliance work. A lot of this down here in these cases is for locksmith work. I have 6 cases there, and 4 of those are filled with locksmith inventory. And over the years, I have found that I like that. I like to be able just to pull the case out and see everything that's in the case, and it's just easier for me if I can see it all at one time to know what I need to order if I am missing something, or I can need to find something to repair a lock or whatever. And then there also are some key blanks here. There's 3 cases of key blanks right there that, in addition to my keyboard, there's more key blanks stored in those cases right there. Okay, so if we look here, like I said, here's my my lockout tools for automotive. I carry most things. The two tools that I use the most are right here where I can just grab them. And then if those two don't do it, then I just pull the whole thing out and find the one I need. I got a big 1/2-inch drill here for installing deadbolts. I've got, like I say, my grinders right here for cutting off a padlock. And so that's kind of the setup on the van inside here. If you purchase one of my packages with 8 or more courses, you receive the startup list of tools. You really do not need much to start a locksmith business, and I kept the list as basic as possible. I don't think that locksmiths ever stop buying tools. Starting out, if you are on a limited budget, you should only buy what you absolutely need. When you are thinking of buying a new tool, you want to ask yourself if it will help you make more money. That is, will you be able to take on more additional kinds of work, or will you be able to complete work faster with the new tool? If the answer is yes, and you have the money, it may make sense to go ahead and get it. I would not normally spend $1,000 on a tool that I think is only going to make me an additional $10 a month. If I think I can spend $1,000 and get an extra $100 a month, I would go ahead and buy the tool immediately. After you have your tools, you want to get your workbench organized so you know exactly where your tools are. Get in the habit of always putting your tools back in the same spot so you can find them quickly. Okay, I want to talk about that tool tote for just a minute. The tool tote is designed to rekey locks and do lockouts. And you can see that it's empty on one side, and then I got tools on the other side. And that's the way I like to keep it. I can grab that. I can go straight to the building. I put the locks in this side that's empty here, bring them back to the van, rekey them, and then take them back. I usually bring 4, 5, or 6 locks at a time. On the tool side, I got WD-40. I have this little drill. I really like these drills. They really speed things along as far as taking a lock off if you have to unscrew it. I always keep a couple of paper towels. I got my picks. There's a pick gun, there's some Allen wrenches, and so on. Got a plastic knife. I have to try to shim a door open. So this is how you want to get set up. So you have the things that you need to grab that and go. Time really is money. On this side, as I said, I have these toolboxes right here where I can just come up and I can open them up, and I have tools. They're loaded with tools, whatever I need, files and so on. Bits, Allen wrenches, knives, all kinds of things in there. And then down here, mostly sockets. Sockets set up in here, more bits, more sockets, wrenches, extensions, and then my drills. I have this this big portable drill, and then I have the electric DeWalt drill. And so, I like most jobs I can do with the portable drill, but if it's, if it's a tougher job, I have to go to the DeWalt. I also carry a 1/2-inch drill. It's stored down below, up inside there. But here I wanted to show you that I have these tools right here. I have an airbag, air jack, and my door jack wrench right here. I keep those right there because most car openings, I got my long reach tool up here. I can just reach it, I can grab these things, and I can get out and I can unlock about probably half or more of the cars on the road can be unlocked with that long reach tool. So I just keep those items right there. Then going on inside, again, there's toolboxes and more drill bits. About 3/4 of this van is set up for locksmithing. About 1/4 is set up for the appliance repair work that I do. You can see here the workspace. This is all for locksmith work here. Okay, this is my workbench area where I rekey locks at. And I have, of course, my lab kit right here. And you always want to keep that fastened down when you're not using it, so the pins stay where they're supposed to stay at. I have a mat right here. You can see it's from lab. It supplies this little pin mat. I keep a few picks and things that I normally use up here. Okay, so over here I have a little box with followers and little screwdrivers and little tools and so on that I use quite a bit. Has a plug holder here. There's some calipers here. I have back here. I have these are my numbers and letters if I want to stamp a key. This is where the old pins go into this little jar here. It's getting pretty full. I'm going to have to empty it out. These are new pins for the pin kit. These are full cases here. And then if I pour part of the pins in, I put the case up here in the front. I have some rings of keys. I have a ring of small keys and then a ring of larger keys, which are the most common keys that are used just in case I want to try a key in a lock. If I'm not sure which key blank it is, I can take these with me and go see which key will fit into a lock and so on. I have a small pair of vice grips, magnifying glass, and so on. So all of those are there, and then I have back here, there's a little bucket of key rings, just cheap key rings, giveaway key rings. I have cut quickset keys, and then I have cut Schlage keys in this bucket here. This box here is the blanks. This will be quickset blanks, and then this box back here is going to be Schlage blanks. So that's how that's organized, and that works for me. Like I say, over the years, I've done different things and tried different little arrangements, and this is what I've come up with. And you'll find what works for you. And the main thing is that you're organized, and the tools get put back to where you know where they are. Up on the board here, these are basically all automotive keys. I have a magnifying glass headset here. And I do have a couple other keys up here. There's a Titan key for the quickset Titan lock, and then the SC4, the six-pin Schlage lock, which are quite common. But other than that, those are mostly all automotive keys. I have a little fan right here. If it starts to get a little bit warm, I can turn my fan on. Then I have WD-40, and I have this lock shot for automotive locks. This is a magnetic board up here that the tools just stick on there, which I found very convenient for the tools that I use the most often in working on locks. I have paper towels right there. Then I have, on this side over here, I have these bins that have, like here's key tags in this bin. They're little parts, different types of parts, small parts for locks, and you can see that there's 64 bins and they're all numbered. And then I have a list of what's in each one. But I try to keep my workbench cleaned up and organized. Okay, so up here I have my door installation kit, and so the little holes all over the van are pretty much filled up with supplies of one type or another, or tools or whatever. Now these key machines, you want these key machines bolted down. Now there's a metal holder here, a shelf that slants, and Adrian Steel is where that comes from. Adrian Steel supplies, they're a big supplier of steel shelving for work type vans. This the table here actually that I'm working on here, you see the metal legs here and so on. What that was actually is like a 4-foot wide steel shelving unit that you could buy for, I don't know, $59 or something like that at Walmart or somewhere. And I just took the different pieces and I put that together. So I have a shelf here. I used the shelving board right here and made it to fit my van. Then I put a piece of plywood on top, and then there's a rubber mat here on this part where I work at. There's actually, what this is, it's a doormat, and found a doormat that would work just really good. So I have rubber here, so if I'm working on an expensive lock, $200-300 lock, even a $75 lock, people don't want it scratched up. They want it to look nice. So I mean, it really doesn't matter what the lock costs, they don't want it scratched. So always, think about that whenever you're working on one, try to keep it scratch free. But back on these key machines, you want those bolted down, obviously, so they don't come flying around while you're driving, but also in case someone were to get in your van, it would make it more difficult to just steal those. They couldn't just run off with them quite so easily. It'd take them a while to get those bolts out. And so a couple of good reasons to make sure that they're bolted down good. Okay, here's another tip for you on your key machines. On your HPC code machine, you want to tighten this up, snug this up before you start driving down the road. If this bounces around, it can knock this out of alignment, and you have to reset it. It's kind of hard. There's a couple of screws up underneath it you have to loosen up, and a couple on the back. So just kind of a word of warning there to always just snug that up a little bit, and usually it'll ride fine. Now one little tip for you, a little trick that I do, when I start to rekey locks, this lab kit has these little indentations here, and I have just found that convenient to use those to put the pins in to hold my pins, and I've got to where I'll just lay a paper towel over those little indentations, and I found that it's easier for me to pick the pins up off of the paper towel. So that, say if I have 4 locks I'm going to rekey with the 285, I'll put the 285 there. Then maybe the next cut's going to be 195, and I'm going to need 4 of those, so I can just put them right in there. And as I say, I have found that it's easy to grab them off of there and pick them up, turn them the right way, stick them in the locks, and I have them all just laid out here. If I have if I need 2 of the, say, 285s in the number 1 chamber and the number 3 chamber, I'll just put them all right there. And then I write down, like here, this is the last job that I did right here, and 42743 were the cuts of the key, and then I'll often make more notes up there, but I have a notebook that I keep right here, and I just write down the cuts of the keys first thing, pull my pins out, get my key blanks, come over here to my key machine, get my keys cut that I'm going to need, and then so get the pins pulled out, I'll rekey the locks, and it's I do it as quickly as I can, so that if another phone call comes in while I'm working on this, I can just get that job finished and go on to another job. Okay, now as I mentioned, I have some plastic cases up here that have key blanks in them, and I have catalogs and stuff right here. Here's a little Jet key catalog. I can look up a key, see what kind of key blank I'm dealing with if I need to. Then I have this binder that, say for example, that I'm working on a lock that I need a Chicago key, CG1 key. That's going to be in box in spot 11 in the key boxes, and so I would simply come over here and I would grab this box off of here and go to number 11, and I have the blanks. So all of my boxes are numbered and inventoried on a list, so I can find them quickly. Okay, here's what the workspace looks like with an actual job going on. These are the original keys. They only wanted 2 keys. I got the new keys laying here. I was coding this up to 63663, so I just need 2 pins, my 6s and my 3s. Got the plug out of this lock here, and those don't belong there, but you can see that that's basically what my job would look like. My kit's down here with more locks ready to rekey. So just takes a few minutes and I'll have them back on the house. Okay, I'm working on a little bigger job today, doing about 40 locks here at fairly decent sized building, and the code on these is 24624, and so I just need 3 different pins, and you can see I got little piles of pins out there. I got locks here that have been keyed up. Again, my old keys right there, my new keys right there, and I got a few little tools laying here. They wanted 10 keys. I've already got the keys cut. First thing I do normally is cut the keys. I always check every key in more than one lock, 2 or 3 locks. I'll check every key in 2 or 3 different locks before I leave. And so you can see that's what it looks like. It's no difference doing 40 locks than it is 4 or 5. You just, as long as you're set up and you're organized, you go get them 4, 5, 6 at a time, bring them in, key them, take them back, and before long you're done. Just like the startup tool list, the startup inventory list is a very basic list. With inventory, that is what you need, just the basic supplies, but not too much more. Remember, if you have more than you need, it ties up money. And if you carry it on your van, it's going to use gas. The important thing is to have a supplier you can count on to get what you need within just a day or 2. However, let me stress, you always want to have the basic supplies. If you normally stock 2 deadbolts and you sell 1, then you need to get another one, the same day if possible. You are either in business or you're not. So when you sell something, replace it as soon as possible. Always have the basics on your van and ready to sell. A lost sale is lost profit. Okay, here's an example of one of these cases. This case is lock parts, and I carry mostly parts for Schlage and Kwikset, both the key and knob type locks and the deadbolts. And I have extra parts, and I have just a bin full of screws right here. I have deadbolt screws, and I have different, like I say, cylinders here and latches, and just extra parts. I just you get some parts, just toss them in there. You don't need like a million parts. You'll get way more parts than you need. So if you got 1 or 2 different items, 1 or 2 latches, or 1 or 2 plugs or whatever, so you don't need a lot. It's just extra weight in your van. So don't carry more than you need. Get another one here. Now this one, you see it has a piece of paper right here, and it's got numbers all over it. The bins are all numbered, and on the paper I can look and I can see, what I have in each bin. So these in the white boxes, these are for storefront doors, your Adams Rate type bolts and so on. Got padlocks. Here's an old I still got an Almont lock right here, see? They went out of business. I still have one of those that, I can sell. I'm pretty much doing A-bus now because, they say Almont went out of business. These are mostly all cam locks back here. But this is how I like to carry my inventory. So I can just pull it out, and if I want my storefront latch bolts are here, and then here would be the mortise cylinders and so on. And again, I have a piece of paper here that tells what's in each bin, and then some of the stuff in the back is just extras. If I have extras, I'll just put them at the back and wait till I need them. But we have all types of mortise cylinders, different finishes, different lengths. We have rim cylinders and so on. These are knob cylinders for Schlage lever handle locks. So that's one way you can do your inventory, and you're gonna do what works for you. But this is how I found works for me. I think the discussion of a workday is probably the most important topic on this video. The discipline with which you approach your workday is going to determine the chances of your success in running your business. You have to have regular working hours if you want to be successful. You have to be ready to work at the start of the day. I think it is very important to be ready to work no later than 8 a.m. Oftentimes, people will be looking for a locksmith early in the morning. It could be for a lockout of a house, a car, or a business, or to schedule some other kind of work that needs to be done. If they call for a lockout at 8 o'clock in the morning and you're not ready to go, they will call someone else. If you make $45 to open a locked car and you miss 10 calls during the month because you were not ready, you've lost $450 in revenue. That's a lot of money to lose simply because you weren't ready to go. Now, when I say ready to work, that would mean being dressed professionally. You want to make a good first impression. So always dress professionally and keep your work vehicle washed up and looking good. Every morning, Monday through Friday, and often on Saturday, I am ready to go to work by 8 o'clock. I normally go out and check the oil in my van. I start it up and make sure it's ready to go. Then, when I get a call, I'm ready to leave immediately. When people call for a locksmith, they usually have the yellow pages in front of them. They're going down the list. If they call you at 8 o'clock and you do not answer, they will simply go to the next one on the list. So I cannot stress this enough that it is very, very important to have a good work discipline and be ready to work every workday by 8 o'clock. You should think of your normal hours as 8 to 5, and you should plan on working those hours. Now, if you have no jobs to go on, there is still work to do. Your main job is to acquire more business. So if you have no jobs to go on, your task is to find new customers. A good business person is always thinking about new customers. The second most important thing to do is to organize your day. After you've checked out your van, sit down and make up a do list for the day. The first item on my do list is usually to finish any office work that needs to be done. As calls come in, I will arrange a schedule and get started on the first call as soon as possible. Now, one thing that I want to point out here as a good tip, that if a job comes in and the job's more than 10 miles away, I will try to schedule that job for in the afternoon. Now, obviously, if they want the work done right away, I'll go ahead and leave. But if the job's more than 10 miles away, I would prefer to have 2 jobs to go on. So by holding that job until, say, 1 or 2 o'clock, it's quite possible that I'll have a second or possibly even a third job that I can complete on the same trip. Now, that's going to reduce the cost, the average cost, of going on each one of those jobs. Because instead of going out, say, 15 miles out and 15 miles back for one job, that's 30 miles, I may be able to make a 40-mile trip and get 2 or 3 jobs done. So, if say 45 miles for 3 jobs, that's 15 miles per job, and that's a lot lower cost in terms of mileage and gas and so on for each one of those jobs. The lower your cost, the higher your profits. Now, the third most important thing to do is to arrange your schedule. Make changes as needed in order to get as many jobs as possible. For example, if I am rekeying a house and a call comes in to open a locked car, I'll check with the homeowner to see if I can leave for a few minutes, go open the locked car, and then come back and finish the rekey job. Now, often, of course, it depends on how far away the locked vehicle or business might be. If it's too far away to be reasonable, then I'm going to have to probably pass on that lockout. But quite often you'll be able to work those in and pick up extra lockouts by doing that. I try to get as much business as I can during the day. Along this line, you want to have a notebook for recording all of the calls that come in. Try to get as much information as you can. Get the name of the person calling, the phone number, the address where the work is to be done at. Also, if the contact person at the job site is going to be somebody else from the caller, then you need to find out who that will be. It also could be important to talk about payment, especially if it's a business. They may expect to be billed. Now, if they expect to be billed, you want to know that in advance usually. It's very important to keep nice, neat notes so you can refer back to them, and also so that you won't lose track of any of the jobs. As calls come in throughout the day, it is easy to lose track of a job. You don't want to lose money because you lost track of which job to go to. Try to arrange your schedule in such a way as to reduce driving. Don't lose a job over it, but if possible, schedule the jobs close together. I strongly recommend that you get a navigator if you don't have one. They can save you a great deal of time from using maps and map books, and they are well worth the cost. If I am in my office when the call comes in, I will print a map from the computer, and so I can take that with me and know exactly where the job is. The reason I do that is because if I have 2 or 3 jobs already lined up and somebody else calls, I can quickly look at the maps and see if they're close to one of those jobs and possibly work it in between 2 I already have planned. So the navigator is important, a good map book is important, thinking about your route is important, and then try to get as many jobs per trip as possible. I'm going to talk about the schedule that I did yesterday. Now, yesterday was Monday, and oftentimes Mondays are particularly busy days. So this is a good example, I think, to go through and kind of explain the route that I took yesterday, the jobs that I did, and then particularly the thinking that I was going through as I scheduled the jobs. I only had one job scheduled as the day began. Now, I live here where this black dot is in the Turlock area. I had one job scheduled up here in Modesto, which is about 15 miles up into where this job was. It was a rekey job for 6 locks, and I had it scheduled for 1 to 3. About 8:30 in the morning, a second call came in for a rekey in the same area. I scheduled it from 2 to 4. Okay, so the first job was scheduled 1 to 3. The second job was scheduled 2 to 4. And that's normally what I will do. I'll give them a 2-hour time block, and I overlap the time blocks. I also will normally call the people when I'm on the way, let them know that I'm coming, and if I am running late, I will also try to call them and let them know I'm running late. But by 8:30, I had 2 jobs up here. About 8:45, a call came in for a semi-truck that was locked out about 7 miles south of me at a truck stop here. That has to be done right away, so I left immediately to go open the semi-truck at the truck stop. I did that and returned back to my home. That probably took about 40 to 45 minutes total. Around 10 o'clock or so, a call came in for a job here in Turlock at a coin laundry. They had a coin slide that was jammed, and there was a lock that they couldn't get unlocked in order to get to the coin slide and get it out. And you'll get all kinds of calls like that. Anything to do with a lock, you're going to get calls to deal with it. And I've had calls with these coin laundries before, and so I was already familiar with it. So I told them that I would be there at about 11 o'clock if that was okay, and they said that it was. So no other calls came in, and I left to do this job here at about 11 o'clock. It took about 30 or 40 minutes. And then I proceeded on north to my first rekey job. At my first rekey job, another call came in for a storefront to be rekeyed. It was only it was double cylinder, 2 cylinders, and shouldn't take more than 20 minutes or so to rekey it. But I scheduled it from 3 to 5 because I don't know what else might come in. So I wanted to build some time into the schedule. Another lockout could come up and so on. So I did these 3 jobs, but while I was doing these 3 jobs in Modesto, I had a call for a rekey on a house back down here in Turlock for only 4 locks. And they told me that it had to be done yesterday. They wanted it done before the day was over. So I asked them how late I could come, and they said, it didn't matter if it was after 5. So I said if they would wait for me to get down here and do this job, that I'd give them a little bit better price, and I'd knock $10 off my regular price to go back and rekey that. Because I still, again, wanted to build some flexibility in to what else could happen up here. And it wasn't long before I had another call that came in here in a town further north, which is as far north as I go in my section, in the district that I normally travel in. That's as far north as I'll go up this Highway 99. And it was a simple problem with a lock. It was a Baldwin lock, and the set screw was kind of worn down, and the handle was slipping, and it was just a matter of going up there and repairing that lock. It just took a few minutes. And in the meantime, another call came in for a car that was locked out at a mall here. So I was able to finish the one lock up here. It was the Baldwin lock. I finished that, came on down here to open this car at this mall, and then I was able to come back down here and rekey this job back in Turlock, and I finished today up around 5:30. So that was the route and the schedule and so on, and how I dealt with, again, like I knew that I probably wouldn't be back down here and late, and I could tell they were in a hurry to get these locks rekeyed, but when I offered them a slight discount off the price, they agreed to wait for me to get back down there. And that allowed me to spend the afternoon up in this area here, because I know this is where most of the people are, and if more work comes in, more than likely it will come in here. So I try to do things down closer to where I live at in the morning and in the evening, and spend the afternoons in the biggest area of population. So by making my route the way I did, I was able to get 8 jobs done during the day, which is quite a few. Most of my days go 4 or 5, but when I get a chance to do 8, 9, or more jobs, I'll take that, because you never know how many you're going to get the next day. But I always try to get as many as I can. So I ended up with, counting the 2 lockouts, the first job I did and the 7th job that I did, I was able to get 8 jobs in for the day. In trying to stay organized throughout the day, I have found that a clipboard like this is very handy to have. This clipboard here has a calculator on it, so I can calculate invoices, figure sales tax, and so on. And it also has storage inside. There's a small notebook, and invoice book can be kept inside. And that's where I keep those at. And along with that, I carry a spiral bound notebook. And I actually carry 2 of these. There's a bigger one and then a smaller one. The smaller one I keep on my workbench inside the van. So if someone calls while I'm working, I can simply make notes right there. The bigger spiral notebook, I make notes in throughout the day as people call. I have found that it's difficult to keep track of all the messages and all the phone calls. And if you write everything into a spiral bound book, you can always go back and find your notes. And then I try to review at each evening, go through and look at all the notes that I had to make sure that I get everything done that needs to be done that day, and also to plan the next day's schedule. Here is a lockout form that I use, and at the top of the form I simply quote the legal statutes that require the gathering of this information for a lockout. But in California, we're required to gather certain information if we open a car or a house or make a car key for someone, and keep that for 2 years. So this is the lockout form that I use, and I keep those right inside the clipboard. Now, if the day is real slow and calls are just simply not coming in, That provides an opportunity to go out and find new customers. This item should always be on your do list. If you have no jobs, make it a point to get out and visit at least 10 new potential customers. Just go out and stop at a business. Go in and tell them you were in the area and give them a business card. Introduce yourself and inquire about possible work. Ask them when was the last time they had the building rekeyed. As you are going in, take a look at the lock on the door. How does it look? You can offer to do preventive maintenance for a nominal fee. If they agree to that, just go ahead and take the lock apart. Make sure that the pins have a good shear line. If they don't have a good shear line, then go ahead and correct that with better pins. Lubricate the lock and put it back together. Offer to make new keys at a nominal rate. Remember, you're trying to get a new customer. Be reasonable. If they don't have any work for you, ask if they know of anyone who may need your service. If you pick up 2 jobs a day like this, you could make an extra $100 or so. This is a lot better than sitting in your shop doing nothing. Now, the fourth major topic I want to address is customer relations. And here there is a very simple rule. Be polite to everyone. Everyone you talk to is a potential customer. I can hardly believe some of the stories I have heard about locksmiths being rude to customers. I just cannot understand why this would happen. If there is a disagreement with the customer, always try to resolve it politely. Always state your price up front. If there are changes in the work, discuss the additional charges before doing the work. The customer should not be surprised by the bill. If there is a misunderstanding, try to resolve it politely and leave on good terms. One of the best ways to resolve an issue is to simply ask the customer what they think is fair. If it's reasonable, then just do it. It is important that you always have the basic inventory needed to do basic locksmith work. Now, I know I already mentioned this when I was discussing inventory, but again, I cannot stress this enough. If you begin to run low on pins in your pin kit, you need to order more immediately. If you sell a lock that day, then get another one as soon as possible. Try to get in the habit of writing down anything that you sell and reorder it as soon as possible. Over time, you will learn what items you need to carry with you and what you don't. This is a very important habit to acquire. Either you are in business or you're not. So if you want to stay in business, always restock your inventory. In terms of planning your work schedule, you always want to be concerned with safety. If certain areas of your community are not safe, it's best to avoid them. I tend not to work after dark. Most jobs can be put off until the next day and you can work in daylight hours. If it is late at night and someone wants their locks rekeyed immediately, I try to get additional information. It's quite possible there is a domestic dispute going on, and I have found it is better not to get in the middle of it. Also, as you are working, always think about safety to avoid injury. Always wear eye protection when needed, and be extra careful around machines and sharp tools. If you get injured, you may not be able to work for a while, and then your income will stop. What are you going to charge for your work? The best thing to do is call around and find out what the competition is charging. Today's customers will often call more than one locksmith for prices. It's important you are competitive. Prices are going to vary from area to area. I would call several locksmiths and find out what they charge to open a locked house, open a locked car, rekey a house with 6 locks, and rekey a storefront. Also, be sure to find out how much more they charge for after hours and weekend work. When a customer calls for a quote, I will often tell them that I will beat any legitimate price by $5 or $10. It just depends on how much work that I have. Just be sure to say legitimate price as you don't want to compete with prices offered by unlicensed locksmiths. If my day is slow and I get a call to rekey a house with 10 locks, I will often offer to beat any price by $10. Getting a job where I can make $100 is better than doing nothing. If I have plenty of work, I do not make the beat any price offer. At this time, to rekey a house, I charge a service call of $45 plus $8 per lock. The average house has 6 locks, which would make a total of $93. This includes 2 keys. If they want additional keys, I charge $4 each, or 3 for $10, for a standard residential key. If the job is more than 10 miles away, I will charge a service call of $50 plus $9 per lock. I often work on Saturday at the same price as during the week, but I will usually charge more for Sundays, holidays, and evening work. But again, check the prices in your area and strive to be competitive. When quoting a price, it is very important that the customer understand there is a minimum charge to come out, especially when quoting a price for a lockout. Quote your price and ask the customer if they want you to come out. If they say yes, tell them that you are going to your truck and leaving for their site right now, and that they are committed to pay you for coming out. Most of the time, they will say no problem. On lockouts, the customer will sometimes find another way into the house or car while you are in transit and may try to cancel. You can expect to make more money for commercial work, and you want to be careful about the way you bid this type of work. If it is more than a simple storefront, I try to visit the site before giving a bid. Large complexes can have many different types of locks with different types of issues, and there may be hidden problems. I am sure that nearly every locksmith out there can tell you stories about a job they thought would take 30 minutes and ended up taking most of the day. I prefer to bid commercial work by the hour. Currently, to work in a large complex, I am asking for a $45 service fee plus $60 an hour with a 1-hour minimum. When I get to the job site, I will walk around with the manager to make a list of everything they want done. I will also normally make a map if it's a very large site. If they are going to want any new hardware installed, I will take the door measurements I need. I'll also make notes about the door swing, the type of hardware they want, including function and finish. If it is more than just a few simple rekeys, I tell them I will call them tomorrow with an estimate. If I think I can do the work in 4 hours, I will give that number as an estimate, but I make sure they understand that if it takes longer, I charge $60 an hour. I will also tell them the cost of the new hardware. So for example, let's say that I'm called out to a large complex that wants several locks rekeyed, they want a couple of new lock sets installed, and they want maybe some adjustments made on some locks or keys made or whatever, and I estimate the work will take 4 hours. Then my bid to them would be for the $45 service call, 4 hours of labor at $240, and the 2 new lock sets, I'm going to just put an estimate here of $280. Now also, I probably would charge sales tax on the lock sets, so that's going to vary from area to area as to how much the sales tax will be, but you don't want to forget to include that in your bid if you're supposed to include your sales tax. But here for this example, without the sales tax, I came to $565 for this 4 hours of work. And when I gave them the bid, I would make sure that they understood that this was for 4 hours of work, and that was my best estimate. But if I ran into problems that were unexpected, that I would still expect to be paid at $60 an hour for additional hours. With the new smartphones, it is fairly easy to take credit cards. You can readily find these on the internet. They offer a device that plugs into your phone and allows you to swipe the card. However, there is a charge for this, and I would normally tell my customers I prefer cash or check. In order to get a large customer who frequently requires work, you may have to bill them at the end of the month. A few customers like this can really help your business. Just be careful to make sure that you get paid in a timely manner. Large customers who get behind on their payments can cause serious damage. If an invoice is not paid within a few days of when I think it should be paid, I'll give the customer a call and try to find out when I will receive payment. Also, if I get a bad check, I work aggressively to collect the check as soon as possible. Over the years, I have had very few problems with checks. One reason is that I normally ask for cash on automotive lockouts. Automotive lockouts create a desperate situation for the customer. They have to get in their car, and if they have no money, they may be tempted to write a check that they know is no good. For this reason, I always ask for cash or credit card on automotive lockouts. Okay, one thing that you're going to need to deal with right away is some type of bookkeeping system. Over the years, I have refined my bookkeeping system with the goal in mind of keeping it as simple as possible. I am sure that as time goes on, you will do the same. But if you do not know where to start or how to get started with keeping your books, I would suggest a very simple book from the office supply store to get started. There are a number of books available which are inexpensive and easy to use. Go to your local office supply store and see what is available. Pick one out, follow its instructions, and begin keeping your books. As I said, over time, you may develop your own system. However, it's important that some system be in place because at the end of the year, you're going to have to file your taxes. As we discuss bookkeeping, there are a couple of other items that are important. One is that you will need some invoices, and you can get these a couple of different ways. You can have an invoice that is printed up with your name, phone number, and address on the top of the invoice, or you can do what I do. I simply go to the office supply store where I buy an invoice book. I then use a rubber stamp with my name and phone number to stamp on each invoice. You will need some type of invoice so that you can issue your customers a receipt. Another form that you will need to have with you is a lockout form. Many states require that specific information be obtained from anyone who hires you to open a car or building. So the best thing to do is simply find out what is required in your area and have some forms made up. I simply print the form in my office on my office printer. The form simply asks for the person's name, address, phone number, driver's license, birth date, and lists what type of work will be done. When opening a car, I always show the make, model, and license plate. I always get the phone number of the person that called in. At the bottom of the form, I have a statement that says I am not responsible for any damage that might occur while opening the car or house or building. Then there's a place for the customer to sign the form and date it. Okay, as we get started talking about bookkeeping and books and organizing your business, I want to go over a few different publications that are available for you from an office supply store that if you don't already have a system in place, these can greatly simplify the process of getting started in bookkeeping. This is an example of a type of book that you could buy from an office supply store. This is a Dome monthly bookkeeping record, and it'll explain how to set it up. You just go through it. It's got all kinds of information in it. General instructions and so on. You get back in here and there'll be a page of examples here on how to use this book to keep your records. And so if you have no idea at all as to what to do about how to set your books up, this is one good example that you can use. Here's another example called monthly bookkeeping. That same type of system. The office supply store probably will have both of these. Again, you just go through it and they'll instruct you on how to start keeping your records. They have examples for you. Study the examples. And then you go to the next page and you just start your own records. So those are out there. Monthly bookkeeping and the Dome bookkeeping system are available. My whole theory on the whole business is to keep it as simple as possible. Do not complicate any part of the business any more than is absolutely necessary. And that really applies to bookkeeping. Keep your books as simple as you can. And you're also going to need to keep track of your vehicle expenses. So again, here's a little book that you can buy for just a couple bucks from a bookstore. Just stick it in your truck or your van and just write everything down in the book. I start at the beginning of the year, and at the end of the year I total that year up and start a new book and simply toss this book in with my all of my other tax records. It goes right into a stack of other papers for the records that we need to file the taxes. So again, that's something you want to keep track of, is your mileage and your other expenses for your van. Now there's a couple of different ways to deduct vehicle expenses, and you may want to consult a tax consultant for advice on, the first year in particular. It would not be a bad idea to talk to a tax consultant and get advice on how to get your business started, because some things, once you start, they're difficult to change as far as taxes. This is an example of the repair order book. You can get this in any office supply store. And it's this is a two-part. They do have three-part forms, but with this book you can write out a receipt and you can give one part to your customer, and then you're going to have a hard copy in the book for your own records. So this is the book that I used, and I just put a stamp right here. So I just stamped these with my rubber stamp at the top of the page, and that's an easy way to get yourself an invoice. If I need to make sure that they have my return address, I also have a rubber stamp that I can just stamp in this large area down below, and they can have more information with my address. If it's a case where they're going to mail me a check for the work I did, I can do that. So that's an easy way to do that. And if you go through the book, it's easy. You can just stop at the office supply store, pick up a couple more, and stamp it, and you're ready to go. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I do. And this is a system that I've come up with over the years, and it's a simple system and it works for me. But I have 3 folders. I have a cash, I have charges, and I have a check folder. And every month as I buy supplies, I put the receipts into one of these folders. At the end of the month, I take the receipts and I total them all up, and I'll show that the form that I put the totals on in a second. But I take the receipts and I put them into an envelope like this. I have cash and I have charges. The checks folder, I actually keep because I write so few checks, I try to use a charge card for all of my expenses. So I write so few checks that I keep the checks in a folder for the whole year. But the charges and the cash receipts go into an envelope at the end of each month. And so the folders, these 2 folders would be emptied out. And then I would start again at the beginning of the month to put the receipts in for the next month. Now at the end of the month, I take the receipts out of each of these envelopes and I total them up by category. So for example, with the charges, now I actually just use the credit card statement, which is that's the reason I use a credit card, is so that I can easily get the numbers off the credit card statement. And I try to use a credit card for as much as I can. I would use it for every single thing that I could if possible, but there'll be times you have to pay cash or use a check. Then I have a form here that I made up myself. And first of all, let me go over the income first. On the income, I go through all of my receipts for the month, and I look at how much merchandise I sold, the total price, the total sales tax collected, the total for labor, and then my total sales, 51, 53, 30. Again, now these are just examples I've put together on here. These are not the actual numbers for my business, but these are examples. These numbers do fit to a model that I'm going to explain as we go through the video, and you'll see later in the video how these kind of fit together a little bit. But once I have my sales recorded, then I go to my credit card statement, and I will take all of the charges for the month and I will divide them up by these different categories: cost of goods sold, advertising, truck expenses, insurance, office expenses, taxes and licenses, training and conferences and travel, conference fees, equipment, other, and so on, and then the total expenses. So this would be the credit card column of all of the expenses for the month. They came to $1473.30. Then I would look if I paid cash for anything, and so I spent $30 in this example for merchandise that I sold, cost of goods sold. I spent $30. So that's the total for this column, and it's also that's the only amount for this category here. Then I would look at any checks that I wrote, and again I would divide those checks up by the different categories of expenses. So I bring the totals down for the checks, the totals for the cash, the totals for the charges, and I get this number, and then I can verify that should equal the total expenses coming down this way also. So that's a check to see if I got the addition right. But that's a simple form that I have, and then at the bottom here we take this number, subtract that from our total sales, and we get the profit that we made for the month, $35.28 for this month. Now the little numbers on the left here actually match up to the income tax forms. These are different lines on the income tax form as to where these numbers would go at the end of the year. So I put some equal signs here just so you can see that, you know, this 288 is these two added together. That these would add across this way. The credit card, the cash, and the check for cost of goods sold would add across, and you would add across for the advertising and so on. So it's just a real simple form, and again, it's one I made up. I've tried to make this bookkeeping thing as simple as possible over the years, and also still work at the end of the year to make it fairly easy to do my income taxes, and this is the form I came up with. Now, once I get this filled out, I would take that along with the charge receipts, and the charge receipts would go into an envelope like this. They would be one for each month. The cash receipts would go into their envelope, again one for each month, and then the paper would be, I would just wrap this all together with a rubber band, and that would be that month's bookkeeping done. The checks, I write so few checks that I leave all my checks in one folder for the whole year. Okay, now once all of that was done and I get to the end of the year, then I have another form where I just simply take these numbers here and I add them all up for the year. So whatever the totals are, like the total for cost of goods sold at $288 for this month, I would add to all of the other months, and I would get a total cost of goods sold here. So this would be my yearly summary. And again, it's the same exact categories, but it's just the totals for the whole year, all 12 months added together. And again, it has the numbers on here for the income tax forms. Now on the monthly statement, if I had other expenses or I had equipment or conference fees, I would make notes on the back of this form, make notes on the back of it about what that was exactly. So I could just simply look at my notes real quick and refresh my memory as to what those were. And then when I went in to talk with my tax consultant, I could explain that, and he would take care of the final preparation of the income tax forms, and any information that he needed would be available right away, either on the front of the form or with my notes on the back of the form. So that's it. And then once you have the yearly statement done, you just take all 12 envelopes, all 12 packages for each month, wrap them all up and put them aside, and you'll have them for your income taxes. And then once that's done, you can just save those for a few years until it's okay to get rid of them. Okay, so just to review my bookkeeping system one more time. What you need is 3 folders: charges, cash, and checks. Put the receipts in the folder. At the end of the month, you get the forms that I showed, and you fill the forms out. It's actually one form that's filled out per month, and at the end of the 12 months, all of the totals go on the yearly worksheet. But once you have the monthly totals done, then all we need are 2 envelopes, cash and charges. We put the receipts in the envelope. We take our monthly statement or our monthly summary. We put it with those 2 envelopes, put a rubber band around that, and put it aside for the end of the year. And that's all there is to it. The key to this thing is to keep up with it every month and not get behind. And it's so easy to do your taxes at the end of the year, because if you do it like this, we already have, as I pointed out, we already have most of the information that we're going to need for our business anyway, by line right here. So it's already laid out to go right on to the tax form. And we'll see that later in the video, the actual tax form. I'm going to go over this form in more detail and try to zoom in and show some of the stuff a little bit larger so to make sure that you can see it. Now, if you're really not interested in seeing any more about this accounting form, just feel free to go on to the next section. But I want to spend some time on this and make sure that people that want to see this will be able to see it. So to start with, we're going to look at the income section. And I made the numbers a lot smaller here. This might be numbers for a week instead of a month. But normally, like I say, you do this for a month. But I wanted to make the numbers a little bit smaller, just primarily to make it easier to move through the form and explain it. So at the beginning here, we have merchandise that was sold, and I have $300. Maybe I sold 10 lock sets for $30 each. So I went through all of my invoices and I found that I sold these 10 lock sets for $300. That number goes there. The tax that was collected, $24. And again, that'll vary from area to area. And then on all of these invoices, there was $676 in labor. And the total for this period came to $1,000, including the labor, the tax, and the merchandise. And then you can see the 1 here is the line item, or the line on the income tax form where this $1,000 would be entered at. Of course, on the tax form, you're going to enter the total for the whole year. So you would add all of these together for the year on the yearly summary and put that number on line 1 on Schedule C of the tax forms. And under expenses, the first item that we have is the cost of goods sold. And again, the way I do this, I go through all of my credit card bills and I put the credit card amounts that would go to cost of goods sold here. And I'm going to say it was $30 for this example. And then there was $10 in cash that was spent on cost of goods sold, and a check was written for $10. So those numbers are added up across this way and equal $50 for cost of goods sold. So that's simply the sum of the credit cards, cash, and check. In the next line we have advertising, and I put $10 on the credit card, $10 cash, $10 check, for a total of $30 advertising for this period. In truck expense, I had $140, $100 on the credit card here, $20 cash, and $20 check, again adding across. Insurance, I had a check for $20. Now you can see that the line item for the income tax form is line 36 for the cost of goods sold. Line 8 advertising, truck expense goes on line 9, and then the insurance was line 15. This cost of goods sold that I have for line 36, it actually appears at more than one place on the Schedule C. And I'll talk about that more in the section on income tax forms. Okay, coming on down the form, we have office expense. And in this example, I got $20 credit card, $10 check for a total of $30. Taxes and licenses, I had $40 on the credit card for a total of $40. And then I go into conferences and travel and so on. So for travel by air, I just put an expense of $50 paid on the credit card. I had no cash and no checks there. Hotel expense, I had $50, again, credit card. Meals, I had $50 credit card. Now on meals and travel and so on, you really need to read over the instructions as far as income tax, or let the tax professional tell you how much of this you can charge. You cannot always write off 100% of all travel as far as meals in particular. So you want to check with them on that. Then I had conference fees of $65, which was a credit card. Equipment for $40, and then here I put it for cash. And then other expense, maybe there was a fee to attend the conference of $72, which went here. And then there'd be a note on the back about that. Whatever I put, all of these here, I would write notes on the back of the paper, so to remind me exactly what these expenses were. And the total expenses then, we can see that we have in the credit card column $487, in the cash column $80, and in the check column $70. You total those across and you get $637. Now that should also equal your expenses. If you added up all of your expenses coming down the column, it should also equal $637. Then if we subtract the $637 from the $1,000 that we had on sales, we get a profit for this period of time of $363. So just coming down the left side of the form, again you can see that we had the total sales for $1,000, and then coming down we had total expenses of $637, and we subtracted the two numbers and we got a profit of $363. Then we can see the numbers on the left-hand margin again are the line numbers for the Schedule C tax form. Now the main thing is that every dollar that is spent, credit card, cash, or check, is entered onto this paper somewhere as some expense. And you may find that you use other categories than the ones I have on here. These are the ones that I normally end up using at the end of the year. There are other categories that you may use. So don't think these are the only ones. Get to Schedule C and look it over and find out if there's some other ones on there that you might need to use. And then again, at the end of the year, I would normally have one of these papers for each month, and I would take the totals in this column and I would add them all up and put them on my yearly summary. And those are the actual numbers that would go then on the income tax form. So again, the main thing is that everything is accounted for somewhere. And then from this, you'll be able to better budget for the next year. You'll have some idea as to what your expenditures might be and what your income might be. And hopefully, of course, your income is going to grow every year.